Hello, welcome to a special series of Art Pays Me interviews with the winners of the 2024 Creative Nova Scotia Awards. Presented annually by Arts Nova Scotia and the Creative Nova Scotia Leadership Council, these awards celebrate artistic excellence across Mi'kmaq. Award categories are as follows: Creative Community Impact, Prix Grand Prix, Established Artist, Emerging Artist, Black Artist, Indigenous Artist, and finally the Portia White Prize that is given to a person who has made outstanding and significant contributions to Nova Scotia's creative community over a sustained career, much like the incredible woman that the award is named after. The winner will also choose an emerging artist or cultural organization that they feel deserve recognition. Collectively, the awards are worth $75,000. Visit artsns.ca to nominate your favorite Nova Scotia artist or nominate yourself. This series would not be possible without the fantastic production work of Heist and Kiki Beats. Hey, nice meeting you. Thanks for having us here in this lovely park that you invited us to, Point Pleasant Park. But before we get started, let's get your name, your pronouns, and your artistic medium.
My name is Tim Crofts, he, him, and I'm a musician and creative improviser.
Okay, so the funny things, we talked about how educated you are, and we know how the education system doesn't necessarily celebrate improvisation in that way. They tend to be kind of rigid. How did you go from that to so heavily trained in classical music to this?
I think I reached a point where I was engaged in more classical art forms and they didn't fit. You know, I was engaged in those kinds of studies and I was very dedicated to them when I did them. But I began to ask questions about self-expression and, you know, how do I achieve a means of expressing that which is important to me in the moment? And what that meant is that I literally changed paths. I sort of became an improviser, if you will. Meaning mentally, I was like, what does that mean? Who is it I need to find to communicate? How do I create community through that and stuff like this? So I sort of radically changed perspective. And I think it was one of those situations that sometimes you experience in life where you make a decision, you immediately know it's right. Right? And it immediately fits, like putting on an article of clothing that fits sort of perfectly. And it was clear to me at that point that that was the direction I would go in, fueled by all of the information I had from all those studies, and suddenly being set free where I could take things and use them however I wanted without the fear of running into tradition, so to speak.
I love that. That's that mastery that they always talk about. Sometimes I was taught that you learn it all to then once you learn it, you can throw it away sort of thing, right?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Like language and such. You're internalizing it all and then it's coming out in your own fusion of all those variety of elements.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even in performance, you know, as a performance artist, I'm most connected when I'm not there.
Yes.
Right? When I'm not in the way of what's going on, when I'm not judging what's going on, when I just allow that creative energy to move.
It's
right
intuitive
through.
at that point. Yeah, man. So for you, was music always a thing? Was there a moment that you kind of felt this is it, or?
That's very interesting. Like, music was always a thing insofar as I was a kid who was understood to have musical abilities.
Okay.
You know, by my teachers and stuff. But I came from a background in which I was expected to have been a doctor and a scientist, which is what my father does from the time I was pretty much born. Like, there's a card that says, oh, there's a new doctor in the family, and I couldn't even speak yet. So I was one of those people who was a scientist, but my parents felt that music was a good hobby to have.
Were you good at science?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See. Okay. I see where.
I was. I mean, that was another point where I suddenly recognized that wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But all it was to say, I was engaged in science, et cetera, and then I went on a trip on my own to Europe. I traveled and I saw all kinds of music, but I also was alone with myself, which I think is so important. And I started to talk to myself and ask questions. And I came to this realization that I'd always been a musician, in fact, and had always wanted to pursue that, but it felt that there were family pressures that meant that I couldn't. So I came home and I quit neuroscience, which is what I was studying at the time, and I started playing piano all the time.
Wow.
And I should say, I didn't start playing piano until I was 19. I was a guitar player as a kid. I played all kinds of different instruments. But when I was 19, I turned onto the piano, and I've never looked back.
And specifically, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, if I were to go one step further,
Yeah.
it was the same thing, that I came home and I was like, I have to study piano.
Yeah.
And so I went to see a teacher, and as soon as I touched it, it felt right. It was like, this is the right thing for me. And the piano has always felt right. Whatever it is that means.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just literally decided, like, I am a musician and I'm a pianist, and that's someone who is committed to their craft and puts in practice every single day for your life, I suppose,
Yeah.
something like that. And there were difficulties, obviously, associated with that, but it felt right. And through all the various challenges that I think any kind of artist faces, it's always felt right that I'm doing the right things for me in terms of manifesting my own personal energy.
It's a calling.
Yes.
Yeah. We can't escape it. I mean, we can, but then we see the people who do and they're not happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's things that sometimes it's not until you're older that you understand, but that are pulling you away from yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we do
Yeah.
culturally, particularly educationally, is designed to push you away from yourself.
For
You
sure.
know? And so sometimes one of the most difficult things is letting yourself do that, letting yourself be an artist. Because sometimes we feel culturally that it's something that, only the special people get to be artists, only the most. But I think a big part of it is allowing yourself to be an artist. I am an artist, you know what I mean?
Some of the conversations I've had with people who don't understand what I'm doing per se is that you don't know that you're not the special person until you try to be the special person. And like what you said, like they love to put these other people on a pedestal and say they're great, but they don't understand that that person at some point made a sacrifice and everyone around them thought that they were an insane person too.
Absolutely. That level of commitment.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And everybody starts somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
And you just move forward. And it's a question of, after you reach a certain age, even if you take tiny steps forward, you'll have achieved some distance.
Yes.
And so I think it's about that. There's the grand spectacle of art, which is great.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But the commitment to the small things as well, just in terms of what kind of a life that means, an aesthetic life, a life where you're aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
And I think a life where you appreciate what everybody else is doing too, regardless of whether they think it's art or not.
Uh-huh. Yes, indeed. And you mentioned practicing every day too. It's that process.
Yes. Process, I mean, that's key. I'm a process artist as opposed to a product artist.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the health of the process and the way that you cultivate that. And also the way that the process has to be open to new things, and to challenges and things like that, and constantly learning and moving. Because for me, in order to make a spontaneous kind of sound art where you don't know what's going to happen, you have to also then really embrace that side of life. You don't know what's going to happen on any given day, so you're much more in tune with learning what's going on, sort of figuring out the dynamics of going on, figuring out what part you play, if you play a part at all, other than maybe just viewing what's going on,
Yeah. That's interesting to think about. It's got me. I play basketball, so it's got me thinking about, like, sometimes I like to improvise. I'll just just make up moves randomly, and it helps me when I'm in a game situation and I don't know what I'm gonna do, because I've been practicing just doing random stuff. Now, like, when I get in those situations, I'm getting double teamed, I'm not scared, because I already know I could do some crazy stuff to get myself out of that situation.
Absolutely. And I think athletics are an interesting tangent, so to speak, because there's also the anticipation of how the game is evolving. Anybody who's is really considered a master at any of athletics, it's that ability as well to kind of go, this is the way things are going. You know, and I can position. You let the game come to you.
Yeah.
As well as, you know. So yeah, when you break it right down, we're all improvisers.
For sure.
And we improvise every single day in all the activities that we're doing. But there's a difference when you become aware of that and sort of celebrate that, whether it's successful or not, right?
Because, that's debatable.
You know, there's always, again, that game situation where it's like, I'm going to do this that maybe doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But that's how you learn as well, you know, based on those contexts. And also having, again, a mindset where it's not necessarily about our success or failure. It's about engaging in what's going on and then that collective experience as it builds.
Yes, for sure. So tell us about this space. Why is this significant for you?
Okay, I'm largely from Halifax.
Yeah.
I was born in Yarmouth,
Okay.
if you want to get technical about it, for anybody who's from Yarmouth, you know. But I grew up in Halifax, and so this is such an important area in so many respects. I spent a lot of time down here, you know, picnics with my family and things during the summer. My mom would always bring us down here. I remember coming down with the family dog, running around in the water. Shakespeare by the Sea, of course, goes on down here. By the time I became a teenager, I'd come down after hours when it was dark. Me and my friends would drink alcohol and smoke marijuana, and we would go and hang out down by the rock and, you know, walk around, see what's going on. So, and then of course now that I'm older myself, I've been here with my niece and stuff as well, you know, and the next sort of generation. So it has a real positive resonance for me. And even where we shot some of the video, you know, up on the hill there, that's a place that I've been a number of times in my life. And I've also seen the park evolve in the way that that nature sort of does things, that part of the seawall is eroding, the hurricane, how it affected the trees and stuff like that, right? So there's something that really resonates about it for me. And also, because I did walk here, and it wasn't the easiest walk from the Halifax Commons. It does feel like it's in the city, but it's almost not.
I know, right?
Yeah. It feels like you're kind of getting away from things a little bit, right? And something about looking over the water and seeing land on the other side just does something for my brain.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about here too. It does feel like you're in a time warp or something. It just you flip to a different dimension or something when you're in here.
Well, absolutely. That funny castle we walked by as well, right?
Yeah, right.
It is a funny little surreal time zone where there are these various things going on, and then people wandering around talking on their phones at the same time.
So you kind of hit on some interesting things. I'm curious, is there a particular driving force behind your work?
That's a very complex question, meaning I would have to say yes. I'm not sure I know exactly what it is, though. Even during the extremely low periods of my life, there's always been an imperative to do this.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. And I'm fine with that. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense to me.
The mystery of that is just something that I roll with. And it's one of these things, it's a spiritual thing, meaning it's hard to articulate.
Yeah.
It almost feels like I don't want to articulate it because it will make it less than it actually is somehow. But it's something to do with the complexity of who I am and, you know, who each of us are. And my ancestors, you know, that my family comes from India and the UK. There's sort of a cultural mixture happening there. And this tendency to want to just kind of express a kind of aesthetic or art that is not necessarily common. I don't know. To sort of put it out there, that it at least exists.
Yes.
You know, there's something there so that they'll know that whoever in the future that these kinds of activities were going on. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever.
You know what? It's very esoteric, but I think because I mean, creatives, we're philosophers in a lot of ways. Like our brains, like we operate in these weird planes. So I see what you're saying. Like it's a self-discovery. It's therapy at the same time. You're not just creating a thing because you're like, can I sell this? This is a compulsion. This is something you need to do.
Absolutely. And the ultimate payoff for me is that I have the ability to do it.
Yeah, there you go.
And so, regardless, although maybe I'm talking about out of both sides of my mouth, I don't know. But regardless of how successful it is, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's the ability to engage in it and the community that I built around it, meaning the people that I collaborate with, etc. And then again is process and community, I think, which is so very important. And I think probably for everybody, we're in a complex time. And the arts, I can say from my experience, is feeling that as well. Various pressures on so many levels. And so for me, it's always bringing it back to the breath, so to speak, in a meditation sort of sense. Mm-hmm. It's about my ability to do this. Mm-hmm. That is what really makes me get up in the morning, makes me tick, so to speak.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to get a little spicy with this next one.
Okay.
When you talk about this process and all of that stuff, is it because you've had people basically try to force you to justify why you're doing it because, look, I've achieved this level of success, or I've done this, or I've accomplished that. Therefore, it's worthy and worth my time to do this.
Can you rephrase that for me a little bit?
So I guess the way I'm looking at it is, rather than this self-discovery sort of thing that you just need to do for yourself, have you had external forces, your parents, for instance, saying, oh, I've accomplished this, now will you respect what I do? That sort of thing.
I mean, that's definitely part of it. I mean, there's no question, even winning an award like this, that, makes me feel really good. And at the same time functions as this way that you can sort of say to people like, look, I am legit.
Yeah.
Like I do things and I'm being recognized for having done those things. But at the same time, if they weren't there, I'd still do it. You understand what I mean?
Yep.
And it's interesting that you speak to resistance almost on some level because I've experienced a lot of resistance to my aesthetic. I've experienced someone saying what I created was not music, for instance.
Yes.
And things like that. And I really live for that, actually.
I'm starting to, I get it.
I just think those are the things that make you really get up in the morning.
The strong reactions.
And do it again. When that started happening, okay, well, I'll tell you a story. If I can.
Yeah, go for it.
When I was in graduate school, I played this concert that was supposed to be inspired by Eastern European music.
Yeah.
So almost everyone was playing classical music.
Yeah.
So I decided I was going to improvise on a Chopin piece, a piece of classical music. So I did. And then the piano department wrote a letter to my teacher saying that I should be kicked out of school.
They didn't even tell you anything? They just wrote a letter?
What they said was that I was doing what was not allowed, was that you were not allowed to improvise on a pre-existing classical music because they felt it was perfect on some level.
Oh, sure, whatever.
And I remember looking at my teacher, basically, and literally high-fiving because it was that's the point where you realize, for me, that I'd done something.
Yeah.
Is that, wow,
Thank you.
here's a reaction here from these people.
Yes.
And in a way, it's precisely, not that I'm just trying to agitate, but it speaks to the integrity of what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And its value, in fact, is that, no, this music is, even classical music for that matter, much deeper than you think.
Oh, for sure.
And any of this stuff can go in any sort of direction. So it's a funny thing. Resistance is golden, I think, in many respects, because it helps you to know where you are. Yeah. That something's pushing back and that you're doing something. That's for me, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm sure that other people have other kinds of aesthetics, but my music, I know it is challenging for people. But the way that people who understand it best understand it's a process, and you take part in the process as well. Mm-hmm. So if you go into that with expectation, as opposed to instead saying, I'm going to take part in watching this person discover whatever is happening here, then you're going to be able to appreciate it on
For sure. For sure. letting go of that control is very useful too, I think, as an artist.
Yeah, and like anything, it's complex. Like you can play what is considered the most esoteric music for children, and they'll love it. And they'll move to it and do things that our contemporary audiences will not do. Right? They'll sit in a chair and, So it's interesting how we're cultured, we're educated to think certain ways about music, art, etc.
Yeah.
Often that it's supposed to do something for you, right? As opposed to like, well, it's this thing, and maybe what it's doing for you is making you ask questions.
Yeah. For sure. That's the most interesting thing to me. Anyway.
Yeah.
So is there a particular work that you're most proud of?
Now that's an interesting question too, because the nature of improvised music is such that it's hard to necessarily say, right? Because I'm always actually much more interested in the next thing. A little different from, say, compositions, etc. Yeah. But having said that, I did do a piece called "If You Remove Me from the Hinge, We Can Swing Freely on the Breeze." I did that during COVID, actually, and for 7 grand pianos. I was lucky that there was an art gallery where, actually at Dalhousie, all the pianos had been put in the basement.
Yeah.
And someone asked me, "Can you figure out something to do?" I said, "Yeah, easily." So I set up 7 grand pianos. I put EBOs in them, etc., and then we overdubbed it 3 times. Video overdubbed and sound overdubbed, and it became this like big tone poem that was sort of like triple improvised, if you will, and I used a lot of different textural stuff for that. So I really discovered something new, and a lot of it, honestly, was because it was during COVID, and as everybody remembers, we couldn't interact with each other.
Yeah.
So it was a kind of work that for me became very conceptual, because I was collaborating entirely with myself. There was nobody else. So a lot of text score, mantra type stuff that I talked about how to overdub these and how they would be complementary and all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I think the end result was sort of a high point for me in terms of manipulation of sound at the piano and making different sounds at the piano and trying experimental things. So that movie, I guess technically it's a movie, that is certainly one of my favorite calling cards, shall we say.
Very cool. Very cool. So with that said, this might be very complicated for you. I was thinking to ask about your routines for your creative process. I mean, I have some assumptions of those, but I'll let you speak on that. What is a routine for you? Like, what does it look like what's essential for you as a creative?
I think that there are 2 things, okay? 2 big parts of it. One of them clearly is going to be my connection to the instrument. Okay. And that means that I have things that I work on a daily basis. They change. I have notebooks and I do things and try things that I have not done before. That stuff is fairly traditional, I think, in many respects, okay? Meaning jazz musicians practice in that way, classical musicians too, in terms of like. But I also, and this is part about coming to the park, I'm into found sound, found objects, sound walks, for instance, things like this. So it means that I like to go out and discover things.
Okay.
And particularly discover sound, And even as we've done this interview, a tractor drove by and a couple of dogs drove by.
Here we go.
My brother, right? It's that kind of stuff that I'll search for, believe it or not.
Record it or just search for it in terms?
Just walk around.
Just walk around and listen. Okay.
And listen. Okay. And like deep listening is a big part of what I do. It's something that musicians don't do enough. We sort of run actually past it. It's almost a given. You listen, you hear music, but where those kinds of sounds are coming from sometime, and then I apply that back to the piano. So the idea of maybe playing a piano with an object so it can create a different kind of sound. Maybe it's a found object, like I use a billiard ball that I found, or doorknobs.
I never even considered that. That's great. That's interesting.
So I look for that kind of stuff as well. And I always, because I teach as well, and I always say to my students that you're the first instrument.
Yeah.
So it means singing. I do a lot of singing and singing exercises. And I do rhythmic clapping and stuff. I even dance a little bit. Not in front of anybody. But, because as I've gotten older, it's this multidisciplinary, more holistic way of doing things. I like photography and taking images and stuff like that as well. So part of it is opening that process, so it's not like now I'm doing music and then there's everything else. It's sort of trying to turn that into a life process.
Yeah.
That you're aware of the things going on, that you make time for sounds, particularly sounds that aren't going to be generated by me, just allowing them to sort of happen. I like to listen to new music and stuff as well. I spend a lot of time looking into that kind of stuff, like something I've never heard before.
Okay.
And with the internet, that's not hard to do at this point, right? So much out there. So I think things like that. So I have sort of like longer term process things like the listening and stuff like that. And then very short term, like I'm going to learn, I worked on some stride piano the other day. And I will never play stride piano in performance. That's, but I'm working on it because I don't know how to do it.
And it's stretching your brain in some way, and it may show up in some kind of way.
This is it. You just can't, you don't know. It's like food. So it's like I'm going to internalize some of that stuff. I don't think about when it will arrive. I'll let that.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's that I need to learn some new things to engage that part of that awareness part of your brain.
Right. Like, I mean, that squirrel, you might end up playing that. That might show up.
I could make a sound like that on a piano.
Right, there you go. Like, yeah.
It may sound funny, and it's probably entirely impossible, but one of my mantras is that there's no sound that I can't make on a piano.
I love that. I was actually wondering if you're ever like, let me go see if I can make that.
Given the right context, the right piano and the right owner of it, and the right tools, I think
cool.
Anything is possible.
I love the piano for that reason too. Like, it just feels like you can do a lot with it.
It's an interesting thing because it's very old at this point too. It's very much connected to colonialism and stuff like this. Mm-hmm. It has a repertoire that many people thought was finished.
Yeah.
For a long time, like, the piano's done and it's not going to do anything new, and sometimes you struggle against that kind of thing. But that's my attitude as well. The piano is like as a new instrument, can do all kinds of things, new things that people haven't imagined yet, and that extends its life as an instrument that contributes to musical aesthetics.
Yeah.
Because once upon a time there were pianos everywhere. Before there was radio, etc. Right? You go to a saloon, there's a piano. You go to a bar, there's going to be a piano. Mm-hmm. Now there are not so many of them, right? But it's giving it that extra kind of life. And I've played it and collaborated in as many contexts as I could. So as we discussed, I've played with poets, I've played with rappers, I've played with painters, I played with a computer.
Yeah.
One time, I played a concert in the park one time because a visual artist dragged an upright piano in the middle of the park, and we did I like that kind of stuff too, and doing things that other people are not willing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
To show, that it has that, it can stretch. It has that mileage. It can move in so many different directions, particularly if you're open to it, open to what's going on and like, okay, how can I contribute to this thing?
Yeah.
Because again, I know that this is about me on some level, but I'm a collaborative artist. The other people that I work with are so important, for sure, to me on so many levels.
For sure. And as a Wu-Tang fan myself personally, I mean, I love some classical, like strings and piano, like the keys when they show up in songs.
Oh, absolutely, man. And the rhythmic science that's going on and the way that, rap music and sampling, stretch sampling, stuff like that really affected my aesthetic.
Yeah.
Can you create those dirty sounds? You know what I mean?
Right, man.
Which I love. I love that sound.
Yeah.
I love rap music. I'll say that. You can throw that on there too. I do, man. I changed my life.
So how does living and creating in Nova Scotia impact your work?
That's a tough one to answer a little bit as well. I mean, I think in the obvious sense, it's that we've already been talking about is the land, the land itself, the ocean, and we have currently anyways, a lot of access to greenery and things like this.
Yeah.
It's interesting that I'm a first generation Canadian, so I don't have family legacy in this part of the world.
Okay.
So in that sense, then, I suppose like my music a little bit, it's a new world meaning we get to create a new legacy here to some degree. And I think obviously the arts community that is here and the many collaborators that I've worked with historically, etc. But I also think that Nova Scotia can be a challenging place to be an artist and make art. And the fact that I've stayed here, because many people leave. Most musicians do, in fact.
Right.
I think part of that is also of trying to help build structures, etc., whatever, for the younger generation of artists who want to do things similar to me or along those lines, and hopefully won't have to face these same challenges.
I fear you. Yeah, it's this weird dichotomy, I guess, of if interesting, talented people don't stay, we can never really build the infrastructure to make the thing that we like to have.
Absolutely, and I think that one of the things that historically has kept people here has been a low cost of living, which is gone.
Yes. So,
and there is going to be an effect.
The appeal is less,
People will leave, and they're already starting to, I think, on some level.
Right.
Because for younger people, what are you going to do if you have to work all the time to pay your rent, and then you're trying to make art on the side, and rent's only going up?
Right.
So not to get political, I don't even think it's all that political, but we're in a difficult situation, and it's going to it's already negatively affecting the arts. And we should probably think about that as this city corporatizes and giant buildings are going up left, right, and center, that there are other things that we need as well.
Culture.
Absolutely. And a means to teach that kind of stuff or mentor the younger generation and new people who are arriving here as well, that we are a community that supports the arts and we're friendly to the arts. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't just see it as a bunch of selfish people who are holding everybody back or you know, who don't have jobs or leech off the system, or I don't know why all those things suddenly came to mind, but
no, but it is a weird thing that, I mean, if you pay attention, I'm a people watcher and I like to watch, observe conversations, and it's very interesting when you get people either like, oh, it's so amazing, you have that talent, to then like the next week they'll flip to like, oh, you guys are just leeching off the system, like, you know, we got a job, blah, 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 no one cares about that stuff. Like, there's more important things.
Or even one of the biggest problems is this idea that artists are supposed to starve.
Yeah.
You're not really legit unless you are struggling and starving. And that goes way back in our culture, right?
100%. Yeah.
As opposed to, like, you can have, it doesn't mean you make millions, but it's a life. You know what I mean?
You enjoy it, so you shouldn't need to be paid to do it.
This is it. And music has been going in that direction for a long time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Pay, come play for free and you'll get exposure is what started, and it undermined a lot of things, and it's hard because you want to be active, and you want to play. And I remember that part of my life as well. When I was younger, anyways, I would play for anybody and do fundraisers, whatever, because you want to play and you want people to know you're doing it. But 30 years later, you're sort of like, well, but wait a minute, how does one create sort of a security or you know?
It's not sustainable. Every time I see a young visual artist or a new one come from away or wherever, I bite my tongue to tell them, like, can you stop giving your services away for so cheap or for free? But I know, like, they just have to, because there's this desperation of, like, I need to get myself out there, exposed, whatever. But, like, it's not sustainable long term. And I watch a few years, if they're still doing it even, then it's like eventually the prices go up, they start, because you just can't survive.
Well, and it will start a precedent, and people will understand that that's who you are.
Yeah.
You're the person who I can call and you'll show up.
You show up.
When you try to break out of that, you might not be able to, or all of a sudden you don't have that gig anymore. And I've experienced that too, because the arts is a community in both a positive and perhaps negative sense in many respects, because we're all friends.
Yeah.
And sometimes being friends means you'll do this without compensation, right?
Yes.
And you want to help everyone out, but at the same time, you don't want to be taken advantage of. So even the point for me, that was a big point of suddenly realizing I am an artist, was you got to pay me, and you got to pay me this much if you want me to be interested at all.
Yeah.
And I learned that from older musicians. Jerry Granelli in particular, I worked with a lot, you know, and he taught me that. You be straight up right away. This is what I want, this is what I need. If we can do that, let's go. If you can't, let's move on. And not waste anybody's time, you know. That is hard because it might mean you get fewer gigs for a little bit. But then, you know, hopefully you'll get more. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that is a challenge with the arts, and we're almost reaching a point where the concept of being a professional artist feels like a thing of the past. I mean, no one sees it as a reality, at least within music. You have various sorts of day jobs, etc., in order to support what it is you do, and that's a very legitimate existence, don't get me wrong, but it's that thing where no one thinks it's even possible. You know, you just assume, okay, I'm not going to succeed at this, so I'm going to have to do this.
Yeah.
And that's a strange sort of defeatist way of approaching things.
Yeah.
You know?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So what does this award mean to you?
It means recognition, I think. You know, I've never received an award.
Okay.
For anything.
Wow.
I don't think. I need my mother here to remind me. Maybe when I was 10 years old, I won something. I've not received an award like this before. So it is kind of thrilling in its own way.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, as much as each of us, or particularly me, has just said, like, I don't care if people listen to my music, and I don't care about this, and I don't care about that. But the truth is, I do care about all of those things. I just don't let them necessarily govern what it is that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it's like, that is a thing. You know, I just turned 50. And
Congrats.
I got it this far. Congratulations. Yeah. You know, and so I've been at this for some time, decades, you know, 30 odd years. So it does feel good because you want to know that the universe knows that you're there, you're out there, and you're doing things. And that it's a Nova Scotia Arts Award. I'm a musician, but it's an arts award, meaning it's being recognized with other artists involved in other disciplines. And so for me, that's a great honor as well, is to be like included with these other artists who are doing things and to feel like you're part of that. So the most important thing for me is a sense of recognition.
Yeah.
Okay, let's face it. Because in the darkest days, those are sort of, will anybody remember what I've done?
Yeah.
Does anybody care?
They like me. They really
Exactly, right? So it's, you know, it's some recognition, and then you can roll that forward, particularly for young artists and stuff like that, should know that in terms of your career and things. And it becomes something that you can then speak to as you apply to other things. It becomes part of your dossier, so to speak, that you achieved that at that time.
Yeah.
You know, and then having said I'm a first generation Nova Scotian, maybe now I'm a little part of Nova Scotian history.
Yes.
On some level.
Yes.
2024.
Mark is made.
There it is. There's my name, you know. A few hundred years from now, when aliens of various sorts are looking into and studying these mysterious people who disappeared on this planet, right? But you know, it's recognition, and that is important.
Yes.
To feel like you have been recognized, and that you have peers and stuff like this as well.
Yes, indeed. So is there anything else that we maybe haven't touched on you'd like to get into?
No, I think we covered. I think we covered quite a bit. I'm trying to think. No. That's good.
All right. Well, one thing I want to say, this is unrelated. You look like my Uncle Lemps, and it's driving me crazy. You look like my Uncle Lemps.
Uncle?
He's
What's his name?
Lemps. So like, he's not his real name. Like everyone's got a nickname. I just knew him as Lemps my whole life. I'm trying to remember what his actual name is. I think it's Thomas. But you look just like him, man. It's crazy. Thank you for listening to Art Pays Me. Hit me up on socials at Art Pays Me pretty much everywhere, and let me know what you think. I love connecting with listeners. If you're an artist looking for clothes that speak to the creative lifestyle, check out artpaysme.com. And don't forget, Visit artsns.ca for more information about the Creative Nova Scotia Awards. Peace.
Let me